Reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 1, text 21 and 22. Arjuna vacha senayar ubayur madhye ratham sthapya me achyuta yavad etan niriksheham yodu kaman avasthitan ker maya saha yodhavyam asmin rana samudyame. So the armies were there, the conch shells were blown, everybody was all set that they're going to fight each other, they're going to kill each other. Then what happens? Arjuna said, "O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies so that I may see those present here who desire to fight and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms." I'm sorry. Sorry. So before the battle is supposed to begin, Arjuna is telling to Krishna, "Please draw my chariot between the two armies." So he wanted to see who's come. Although Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, out of his causeless mercy, he was engaged in the service of his friend. He never fails in his affection for his devotees, and thus he's addressed here as infallible, Achyutya. Why? That Krishna never fails his devotees. He's become a servant of his devotee. He's become a charioteer, a driver. So that's why he's called infallible. As charioteer, he had to carry out the orders of Arjuna. And since he did not hesitate to do so, he's addressed as infallible. So if we are in a position, we do not become a servant of our servant. But here Krishna, what he's doing, he's becoming a servant of his devotee. That's the reason Krishna does not give his pure love so easily, because he comes totally under the control of the devotee. Although he had accepted the position of a charioteer for his devotee, his supreme position was not challenged. So it doesn't mean that Krishna, because he's driving the chariot of Arjuna, he's become lower than Arjuna. No, he's still God. Even though he's become a driver of Arjuna, he's still God. In fact, he's become more glorious that, oh wow, he's become a servant of his devotee. In all circumstances, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Rishikesh, the Lord of the total senses. The relationship between the Lord and his servitor is very sweet and transcendental. The servitor is always ready to render service to the Lord. And similarly, the Lord is always seeking an opportunity to render some service to the devotee. So here we can see Krishna's mood. What Krishna is saying, surrender unto me, surrender unto me. He's saying that in Bhagavad Gita. Now, but what happens when we surrender? Then we have a sweet, loving relationship, a transcendental love relationship, which is eternal. That relationship never stops. In our experience, all our relationships have a beginning and an end. They either end in a quarrel, or even if not, then they end with the end of life. So, but the relationship between Krishna and the his servant, very sweet, very transcendental. So what is it? That the servant is always wanting to serve Krishna. And what is he doing? Not whipping and saying, yes, yes, you must serve me. No, what he's saying, Krishna is seeing an opportunity. How can I serve my devotee? This devotee is doing so much for me. My servant is doing so much for me. How can I serve him? How can I please him? Krishna, he takes greater pleasure in his pure devotees assuming the advantageous position of ordering him than he does in being the giver of orders. This is his mood. This is his internal mood. And that's the reason he does not give his love to everybody. People who are envious of Krishna, he says, okay, you're envious of me. You can continue to remain envious of me. Like this. But when he sees that there is a pure devotee, he's serving Krishna, then Krishna wants to serve him more and more. Krishna gets pleased in serving his devotee. He's pleased to take the orders, like Krishna was taking the sandals of Nanda Maharaj on his head. He's God. He didn't need to do that. But his mother said, please give your father's sandals to him. So he put it on his head and taking it. He becomes a servant of his devotees. That's how Krishna is. Yudhishthir Maharaj sent Krishna as a messenger to Duryodhana before the war, that please stop don't engage in war. We can have a compromise. Then Krishna became like an ordinary messenger, like a courier. We send a letter through a courier, we send a message through somebody. Krishna became like that, although he's God. But because there's a loving relationship, he becomes a servant of his servant. So when he finds that a pure devotee is ordering him, he obtains transcendental pleasure, although he's the infallible master in all circumstances. So he gets pleased. But not artificially. We cannot come to that position artificially. Let me order Krishna. Krishna will be like, okay, you're coming from a position of lust, So this is an exchange of pure love. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Arjuna had no desire to fight with his cousins and brothers, but he was forced to come on to the battlefield by the obstinacy of Duryodhana, who was never agreeable to any peaceful negotiation. Therefore, he was very anxious to see who the leading persons on the battlefield were. Although there was no question of a peacemaking endeavor on the battlefield, he wanted to see them again and to see how much they were bent upon demanding an unwanted war. So the Pandavas were trying to avoid the war as much as they could. But Duryodhana was obstinate. He just wanted to fight. And so that's the reason Arjuna wanted to see. And Arjuna wanted to see the army that Duryodhana had amassed. He wanted to see. And so the point to be noticed here is we are always saying that become a servant of Krishna, become a servant of Krishna. And then we might say, oh, why should I become a servant? But here Krishna's mood is revealed that, oh, Krishna becomes a servant of his servant, in fact. He takes pleasure in serving his devotees. So it is in our interest if we become a devotee of Krishna. It's in our interest if we give up this false idea that I am God, that I'm the enjoyer, I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer, controller, I'm the owner, and take up this process of bhakti very sincerely. So we'll stop here for today. I'm not sure if there are any questions or comments. No? Then let's stop here for today. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.